What's up, guys? Welcome to the 49ers versus Vikings post-game show. Today I'm joined by a new guest, first time on this channel, Randon, aka Rando Commando 24. How you doing tonight, Rando?
Man, I'm doing fantastic, man. Thank you for coming on. We had a great time on my pod. Now I'm returning the favor, man. I'm glad to come on here, man. How you doing?
I'm good. The Niners got a W 6-5, officially the 6th seed. So it feels good. It feels good. It was a little
you got the smiles going on, man. You got the smiles, so I like it.
Yeah, but it was a little bit tense at the end. The Niners, Robbie missed the field goal. But I'm glad the Niners got the W, which is great. So let's jump into some quick injuries that happened in the game. Obviously, Debo Samuel, he had his groin injury, and Trey Sermon had his ankle injury. After the game, Debo Samuel did say that he wasn't too concerned about the injury. But what's your thoughts on this injury of Debo Samuel and Trey Sermon? How big of a loss would Debo Samuel be if he was out for a couple of weeks?
Well, Trey Sermon, I thought that he would be a bigger factor in the team year long, right? From the get-go when he was drafted, I thought that there'd be a thunder lightning type approach with him and Mostert, but Mostert got injured early. Now it's him and Mitchell, but they haven't been a thunder lightning. It's been all Mitchell all the time as long as he's in the lineup. So Trey Sermon, as much as I like his talent, it's not as big as of a downfall to the team as Debo Samuel. What do you feel about Debo Samuel and the fact that he's been more of a running back lately and he's been exposed to more heavy contact? Do you think that has to do with his injury, or do you think that it's just the benefit of him being a universal player?
I think it's just the benefit of him being a universal player because Debo Samuel, like on my show last time, we were talking about Debo Samuel versus Cooper Kupp, and I was like, obviously we're talking about an individual receiver. I would say Cooper Kupp is definitely better as a receiver than Debo Samuel, but Debo Samuel, if we're talking just as a player, Debo Samuel is I would say he's a better player than Cooper Kupp because you could do with Debo, you could use him in the backfield, like with Kyle Shanahan, he's using him right now, and Debo just so versatile in the backfield, and he's just such a weapon gadget player that you can use. And now we realize like why Kyle Shanahan wanted Debo Samuel, because for me, I was personally for the last couple of years, I was like, why would the Niners draft Debo Samuel when you could have gotten AJ Brown or DK Metcalf? Because those guys were like dominating the last couple of years. And Debo, he had his injury issues, but Debo Samuel's a versatile player, and I'm like him in the backfield. He's had for the last couple of games, even Jacksonville and this week, he's had less receptions, but in the run game, he's just been so lethal in the run game in how Kyle Shanahan used him as a running back, and then you lines him up in the backfield. So Debo Samuel has been really good in the backfield, especially for the last couple of games.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And the fact that you look at Debo as a weapon, he's an offensive weapon, right? So are they drafting for a wide receiver purely, or is Shanahan scheming that, hey, he can play all parts of the field and he's been successful as a wide receiver earlier in the season and now he's successful as a running back? Debo is the far worse injury. Groin, right? Change of direction, how you move in your legs, how you split your legs. As a running back, which he's been lately in the season, that's hard on him. That's going to be hard on him. So is that 1, 2, 3 game injury? Is that going to be a lingering injury? Soft tissue? That's going to be hard to say. But, is on a wide receiver, you're doing that same thing. Are you getting off the break? So that's going to be hard to tell with how Debo responds. I think that he probably could have played, right, this game. He was on the sideline. He was joking around, so it wasn't painful for him. It was just a precaution.
I don't know if you saw where he was like, giving water to Elijah Mitchell. He was like putting some water in his back. Yeah, so he was having fun.
He's like drink this Gatorade. Like sprinkle that in your helmet. So he was joking around. He was being a part of the team. So my guess is that he's been questionable all year with all his injuries, and he's been playing through them. Where before we've been knocking him on the injury front, right? So he's been playing through all the injuries. Is this going to be a 1 to 2 week injury? Is this going to be a season-long nagging stuff? If it's season-long, Niners don't have a shot to make in the playoffs because the fact that he's the number one offensive weapon on this team.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, if he's out for the remainder of the season, that's going to be a huge loss for the Niners because he's an integral part of the offense, especially this year. We've been using him in the backfield. He's just the ultimate gadget player. So hopefully it's not not that big of an injury. But if he is out for the remainder of the season, it's going to be a pretty big loss. Or if it lingers, it's going to be a pretty big.
And now what I'm saying, when the remainder of the season, it's like lingering injury, right? So he seemed fine. Like he wasn't carted off like Sermon. But those soft tissues linger all the time. So if he's not 100%, that could diminish the chance if he misses multiple games, that could really diminish the chance of the Niners making the playoffs.
Yep. And speaking of Trey Sermon, I mean, Trey Sermon, in my opinion, he's not really that big of a loss. Elijah Mitchell, obviously, he's getting majority of the carries. He had 27 carries today, and I had almost over like 100 yards and had like a touchdown. So he's pretty much the main running back. And Jeff Wilson also someplace he's also been getting in. I think he had like 2 carries this game, but Elijah Mitchell's taking majority of the carries. So Trey Sermon really isn't that big of a loss for us because he's not really getting that much playing time. He's not that huge of a part. He's not that huge part of our offense like Debo Samuel is. But I'm kind of shocked because of Trey Sermon because the Niners traded up to get Trey Sermon and not even using him, and they're using Elijah Mitchell, who's their later round draft pick, which is kind of surprising. So
I want to ask you that question then. You're looking at draft capital is a huge part of how teams evaluate players, what they're willing to spend on players. And Elijah Mitchell's been dominant in his role based on his draft stock, and Sermon's been, a side thought. Do you feel that the Niners were trying to make a different move, being that he's more of a power runner versus Elijah Mitchell?
Well,
and that's how it's played long term.
Well, one thing I will say is that I remember when I went back and the Niners were posting like all their draft videos with Trey Lance and all that, and they were talking about how they do like on the Niners YouTube channel, and they talk about like how in Trey Lance. I remember there was a video of Trey Lance when he came to the Bay, and the first time he came to the Bay, and they kind of showed something where Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch like in their film room, and they had a clip of Trey Sermon. I don't know if you saw that, but they were watching some Trey Sermon film, so they were scouting Trey Sermon. So I'm pretty sure their intention was to draft Trey Sermon, but we've seen this with the Niners in the entire Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch regime that some of the Niners later on draft picks do way better than some of the earlier on draft picks. Like we look at guys like George Kittle, we look at guys like Fred Warner. Those guys are later on draft picks. You look at guys that are drafted earlier, like like Dante Pettis, obviously. Those guys, the later on draft picks usually outperform some of the second or third round draft picks that we have. So it's not a shocking thing to me, but the one thing that I get a little bit frustrated with is like you traded up to get him and your later on draft pick, 6th round pick, I think 6th round or 7th round pick Elijah Mitchell, who's getting majority of the reps, and majority of the carries. Obviously, he got majority of the carries today, so it just kind of frustrates me sometimes because you could use that somewhere else and use that pick somewhere else. But at the same time, we've seen it before in the Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch regime.
You're 100% correct because it's value management, right? So or asset management, and they spent that much money in Aaron Banks, Trey Lance, and Trey Sermon, Aubrey Thomas. That all those guys in the first 3 rounds, they're not playing. So asset management, are they mismanaging their team there? And that's something we're gonna have to see about because you have to get players who are succeeding with lower contracts to be successful as a full team. But the only reason we're successful now is that they hit on Elijah Mitchell, right? Because you saw him 4.3, 4.4 speed. He was a good outside runner at Lafayette. So, good on them.
Yeah, but definitely is one of those things where before the season we never knew Elijah Mitchell would have been the starting running back, especially with Mostert with his injury. But we never thought Elijah Mitchell would be a starter. And coming into the season, I never thought Elijah Mitchell would be a starter. So that's definitely a surprise.
Yeah.
Aruna has a question. Where do you rank the 49ers as a team after this win in the NFC?
Well, for me, I think every team in the NFC has shown weakness, right? So there's no supreme dominant team in the NFC. And then I go, hey, how do you rank the quarterbacks? So when teams falter, quarterbacks can usually make up for that falter. You see that with Russell Wilson for his whole career, right? When the team was dominant on defense and he was a rookie, they won the Super Bowl, but they've been a playoff team because of him for the most part. So I think Jimmy has played lately better football than his entire career. But I think that you look at like the dominant parts, you got to give it to Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. And so I think that it leans more towards them, but our defense is good enough. We're top 10. I don't know what we are after this game. We were top 10 before this game overall. So if we make some turnovers, we get some good stops, we run the football, we can beat any team any week.
Yeah, the biggest part with the Niners, if they want to make a run in the playoffs, is running the football and pounding the football down team's throat. Because I would say that at pretty much every game is that like you're not gonna win football games by relying on Jimmy Garoppolo winning football games. Like Jimmy Garoppolo, you can't expect Jimmy Garoppolo to throw over 300 yards and winning football games and have like a great throwing, great passing game and expect Jimmy Garoppolo to put the team on his back and win football games. Jimmy Garoppolo win football games when the run game is there, the defense is playing well, and Jimmy Garoppolo for the last couple of weeks he's been playing well enough for us to win games. Is he winning the games and doing it all by himself like we've seen, like you said, like we've seen Russell Wilson do the last couple of seasons? No, he's not doing that. But is he playing good enough for us to win football games? I definitely do think so. But the issue that comes up to my mind is when teams stack the box against us, especially in the run, and Jimmy Garoppolo has to throw the football and he has to throw it well, and we have to rely on Jimmy Garoppolo's arm to win the football games. Can he do that? We saw it in the Super Bowl in 2019, right? Jimmy Garoppolo had to make that one pass. Now, Kyle Shanahan, obviously there was multiple errors by Kyle Shanahan that defense, but Jimmy Garoppolo had an opportunity to win the game when he overthrew it. When you relied on Jimmy Garoppolo to make plays and throw the football downfield, he couldn't do that. So when teams stack the box against the Niners, can Jimmy Garoppolo win you football games through the air? I don't know. That's one question mark that I have.
Yeah, I mean, one throw isn't really my judgment on Jimmy. Like you look at today's game, Kurt in the first drive of the game had overthrew his wide receiver by over 20 yards, and he's one of the best deep ball throwers in the game. I just want to play over under with you right here, Amin. So let's go over under here. Would you bet? You know, obviously you have your own nest egg going on, but let's go over under with on one game stance. Would you bet us against the Cardinals?
No.
Would you bet us against the Packers?
No.
Would you bet us against the Bucks?
No.
Would you bet us against the Cowboys?
Cowboys, yes.
Okay,
Cowboys, yes.
So we have three teams. We have three teams that you don't feel confident in, and then you have one team that. So we're right in that range. We're right in the 4 to 6 range. The Niners can make a move, right? Because we have a good defense. Bosa gets a sack, pick, right? Jimmy plays a good game, a non-turnover game. We run the football. So we can play against some teams there in the top of the NFC, but I don't think anybody's super dominant. I don't think that everybody is there. I think, hey, there's a lot of teams that have better quarterbacks than we do, and there's a lot of teams that have similar defenses than we do. So we're going to have to play the right game when it counts in order for us to make way in the NFC.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the Cowboys, obviously, because their lost the last couple of weeks. I think the Cowboys have lost their last like 3 of their 4. So the Cowboys have been dropping games. Like coming into that Thanksgiving game, I never thought the Raiders were gonna beat the Cowboys. I was like, the Cowboys are gonna bounce back after that Chiefs loss. But no, obviously they lost.
Yeah.
They were losing pretty badly until they made a comeback late. But the Cowboys are one team that I would say could be 50-50 if the Niners see them in the playoffs. But my whole thing with the Bucks, the Packers, and also the Cardinals, that with a healthy Cardinals team, we've already seen how hard it is to get. We did good against Kyler Murray in Arizona, but I still feel like we do struggle against Arizona, especially this season. We have struggled against Arizona. And then the Packers and the Bucks, just their quarterbacks, their 2 quarterbacks. I have more faith in Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, especially in the playoffs, than I have in Jimmy Garoppolo and the Niners. And we've struggled even like 37 seconds left this season, like 37 seconds left. And Aaron Rodgers, obviously, he got that field goal. And then we know what Brady does, especially in the playoffs. It's pretty darn hard to beat Brady in the playoffs. And even right now in the regular season, they have lost some games, but Brady's been playing MVP caliber pretty much this whole season except for the last couple of weeks. So Brady's been playing MVP caliber, and we know what Brady does in the playoffs. So
Yeah, before we move on to the next topic, because we got some good topics coming up. You look at today, Fournette had 4 touchdowns. You have Green Bay with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. There's plenty of top running backs that their running game can get going. So it's going to be on that situational game, which any given Sunday, yes, the Niners can win against anybody. But if you're going to play the odds, the deck is stacked against us in most topics.
yeah, but Josh Norman is a liability. Any thoughts? Yeah, we're gonna talk about Josh Norman in a little bit because it's frustrating sometimes watching Josh Norman. I will say that, but we will get to that in a little bit. But speaking on the defensive side, Fred Warner with his ankle injury and Dre Greenlaw with his groin injury, 2 starting linebackers. Greenlaw, obviously, he came back this game. He was out pretty much. He got hurt in week 1. doing like a flip, I think, in the end zone when he got a pick six, and then Fred Warner with an ankle injury. When I didn't even know he went out until the Niners tweeted it out, and Adam Schefter tweeted it out that he had an ankle injury. But what are your thoughts on these two injuries, and how big of a loss would this be for the Niners if they were to miss multiple weeks?
Well, I mean, I think it's a huge loss, right? You just pay Fred Warner that much amount of money. You want him to be there all the time, right? Like money dictates the pressure on the player, and he should be there all the time. Will his ankle keep him out 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? He didn't come back in the game, so that leads me to believe that it's a higher level injury. Dre Greenlaw tried to run it out on the sideline, so maybe he is just feeling it out, and the team said no. So we'll see how that works out. I'm interested to see. I'm not a huge linebacker dictates success type person, but you see that there's a lot of athletic tight ends coming up, in the NFL. So, the linebackers got to dictate the run defense. Our run defense has been garbage for the most part. So they have a big role to play. And I don't want to see Al-Shaair just be the lone linebacker out there for a couple of weeks. That would hamper our playoff success.
Yeah. If Fred and Dre Greenlaw, if they're out for multiple weeks, I think obviously now linebackers, like you said, they don't necessarily dictate a team's success. But Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw are also pretty integral parts of our defense, and they bring obviously Fred Warner. We paid him this offseason, getting paid a lot of money. Obviously, all-pro Fred, but Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, those are two key parts of our defense. And I mean, Aziz, one thing I will say about Aziz is that I like Aziz's physicality, but Aziz misses some tackles. And he does, and he missed it today. He missed a couple of tackles. He missed a couple of tackles in the Arizona game.
Yeah, I want to say with that, you're 100% correct, because there's a lot of people who are like, Al-Shaair is dominant, but he's just flying around because he's got good speed, right? He's flying around, but he's one of the top in tackle success rate, or not top, but bottom in tackle success rate. So how often he tries to tackle versus he completes a tackle, he's not a great tackler. And so if he's our sole linebacker, and it looks like Bay Area Baller in the chat is saying that it's a hamstring, that's going to linger for Fred. So
Fred is a hamstring?
That's what Bay is saying. I mean, we haven't had any official announcement yet. So if that is the case, then that could be multiple weeks, which would be detrimental to our team.
Oh, it is actually a hamstring. Then I actually screwed up then. But yeah, but I mean, if he has an injury, and I mean, one thing that I will say, like Fred, he's pretty good at tackles. At least he would say he's better at tackling than Aziz is, and that's one thing that Fred definitely brings to the table, is that he's better at tackling than Aziz is. So
yeah,
if he's out for the remainder, and then if he's out for the next couple of weeks, that's also going to be a huge loss for our defense. And yes, it was a great win. Excited the Niners are 6-5. Hopefully, let's just say the Rams lose to the Jaguars. I hope the Jaguars pull off an upset, and the Niners win in Seattle next week. So the Niners can be 7-5. Same thing with the Rams. But I don't think that's going to happen. But it's looking good for.
Yeah, it's looking good for the Niners. I want to say for Bay Area Ballers and everybody out there on Twitter and all those things, wins are wins. Sometimes the rushing attack wins, sometimes the defense wins, sometimes Jimmy wins, or the passing attack wins, or Kyle Shanahan calls a good game. Wins are wins, and playoffs is the ultimate goal, or what? Because once you get in the dance, anything's possible.
Yep, feels great, baby. Yep, it definitely does. Well, moving on to, obviously this is not necessarily a big part of the game. This is not necessarily the whole game. But what was your thoughts or reaction when Robbie Gould misses the field goal to ice the game? What was your thoughts on that? I know I wasn't happy. I was like losing my mind. I was like in shock. I was like, wow, like Robbie Gould just missed the field goal to ice the game. But what was your thoughts? And do you think Robbie Gould is not necessarily him as a good kicker, but do you think he's an overpaid kicker in the Niners? Do you think the Niners shouldn't have paid him all that money?
So I think that his contract was worthy in the original contract, right? Because he's younger, his career stats speak for themselves. So, and he came from Chicago, where the wind is similar to San Francisco in a different way. Maybe not the overall temperature, but the wind is. So in his original contract, I was 100% for it. But there's kickers who aren't even on the radar that are good kickers that have powerful legs. We brought a guy in, Joey Sly, who kicked multiple kicks that Robbie Gold could never make in his entire life. Not entire life, but in this season, over 50 yards because his leg isn't there anymore, right? So is he a comparable kicker? Is he a good kicker? Yes. Is he a kicker that can hit all the shots in the matchup book? No. So I throw it back to you as like, is he the Jimmy G of kickers? Right? He's good from short distance. He's accurate from short distance. But when you try to stretch the field or stretch the kick, can he make those shots?
I mean, Robbie Gold, we've seen it. He's not that great from 50 plus, especially now in his career, at the stage that he is now in his career. He's really not that good for 50 plus. And like you said, like, I remember, like, the reporters when we were playing in the monsoon game against the Colts, they were saying Sly was making from, like, 60 plus in pregame warmups. So, like, Sly is a much bigger leg. Obviously, that is a key factor because he is younger, but Robbie Gold just can't hit from 50 plus anymore. And I feel like Robbie Gold, I mean, one thing that I believe is that, like, kickers, I feel like kickers aren't necessarily the most important. They're not necessarily in an important position. I know some people might not like that, but like you said, there are kickers under the radar that are equivalent or that can make 50 plus yarders that you don't have to pay that much money. I don't know that the only guy that I said it before the show. I was like, the only guy that I would pay money to as a kicker would be Justin Tucker because he's accurate and he has that big leg. Otherwise, would I pay any other kicker how much the Niners are paying Robbie Gold? I don't know the exact number. I don't know the exact number, but would I pick another kicker that much money that Robbie Gold is getting? No, because I don't think kicker is that important of a position. And with Robbie Gold, if Robbie Gold could make 50 plus yarders, then fine. But Robbie Gold, now I get it, 50 plus yarders is not the only important thing a kicker has to do, but Robbie Gold isn't a generational talent as a kicker. He's not necessarily a guy that I would pay that much money to. So I feel like Robbie Gold can hit from 50 plus, and Robbie Gold, I feel like he's overpaid. But at the same time, I feel like one thing I feel like why the Niners gave Robbie Gold that contract is, I don't know if you remember that Monday night game where the Niners were undefeated and that they brought and Robbie Gold was hurt, and then they had some type of rookie kicker, some undrafted kicker.
Yeah.
And he missed the game-winning kick. And then after that moment, like, I feel like the Niners realized, like, we need Robbie Gold because Robbie Gold would have hit that. Robbie Gold is clutch, but at the same time, like, some of the kicks that he misses from 50 plus, and just sometimes, like, his leg isn't that good anymore. I feel like Robbie Gold is overpaid.
He is definitely overpaid, and let's not discount his career, right? So he's one of the greatest kickers of all time, most accurate kickers of all time. But when do you pay a player, and how much money you're paying a player versus what his age and his talent is a big deal when you're running a franchise, right? So you're looking at kicking statistics this year for kicks for kickers who have over 10 kicks, right? So Boswell for Pittsburgh, Gay for the Rams, Folk, Tucker, Cano, Gonzalez. None of those guys are Robbie Gold. And so kickers move up. McPherson for the Bengals, right? Straight out of college. He's already one of the top kickers in the league. There's people who have dedicated their lives to these, and you're betting on the accuracy long term, which I understand from the Niners, versus his ability overall. And Robbie Gold can't hit over 50 yards consistently, which, let me throw this question to you. Let's throw a new question to you. Do you think that has to do with Shanahan's play calling in midfield, knowing that Gold can't hit over 50?
I mean, obviously, that definitely, Kyle Shanahan definitely changes his play call because Robbie Gold can hit from 50. Yeah. We know that. We've seen that. He's not, at least, I'm not saying that he can't hit, but he's not consistent hitting 50 plus. Or with other kickers, like I said, with Justin Tucker, I don't think Jim Harbaugh has to worry about that because he knows Justin Tucker has a big leg and Justin Tucker can make from 50 plus. There's a lot of kickers that can make from 50 plus. But like I said before, with Robbie Gold, wasn't necessarily the right move to pay him that much money, considering his age, considering with his injury history, let's say for the last couple of years, sometimes he does miss games. Was it the right move for the Niners to give him a new contract? No, because he can hit from 50 plus. He's not consistent from 50 plus. And with his injury history and his age, considering his age, it wasn't really that worth it. And like you said, like, there are other guys, there are other kickers under the radar, undrafted guys that can hit from 50 plus and that can do similar things and the same things that Robbie Gould can do. So I definitely do think it was overrated. I definitely think Kyle Shanahan definitely thinks about that when he does do his game plan or when he makes a game plan.
Yeah, I think asset management is a big thing in this club. It's one of my biggest downfalls for this team is asset management, and the kicker is a part of that. So that's to be determined going forward. What do you have him in for the next topic?
So we're gonna ask the question, and we already had it as one of our topics. But Josh freaking Norman, what's your whole thoughts on Josh Norman? I really don't know why Josh Norman is starting. He misses tackles, he gets called for pass interferences, all the things that you don't want your cornerback to do. He does. He does all the wrong things. Now he does do some good things, like he is leading all defensively in forced fumbles. So he is doing some good. He has like 5 forced fumbles, so he is doing some good. But majority of his plays, majority of the time when he's playing, pass interferences, getting beat by corners, it's just not a good look for Josh Norman. But what's your whole thoughts on Josh Norman? Do you think that they should be playing Diamond Lenore over Josh Norman?
So my thought is this: is turnovers are key for a defense, right? So like those are the most noticeable plays on a defense is turnovers, right? So he's created 6 forced fumbles, and so that's huge for our team, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when he is getting beat all the time on normal plays, he lost his temper a couple games ago. Like he's doing a lot of things. Like he's doing all right. Like his balance of positive and negative, they're about equal. So why not put in the rookie Diamond Lenore who's done positive and negative himself, right? So it's the same thing. I think it's the same thing with the entire Niners roster. Like, why are there or why are they waiting on giving young players a chance to prove themselves? That's the same reason I feel about Josh Norman is that it's no different than Jimmy Garoppolo. It's no different. Like Jimmy Garoppolo's had positive and negatives, but we all want to see Trey Lance, or most people want to see Trey Lance. You have Mozart was down after 2 plays. So it was an open backfield, but you spend a 3rd-round pick on Sermon and you didn't give him the opportunity that you gave Mitchell. So there's a lot of those types of asset management questions that we have going on for our fans. But for Norman, he's at least dominating on the turnover aspect, which is what you want from your defense.
Yeah, but I mean, he's definitely getting those turnovers, which is a good thing. Like you look at Trevon Diggs in Dallas, he almost has like allowed over 700 yards this season. So he is getting beat. He's allowing pretty much a lot of yards this season, but he is creating those turnovers like Norman is doing. But one thing about Norman is that, like, I feel like when I see Norman, yes, he will sometimes have that one forced fumble a game. Yes, he might have that one interception per game. But like
Yeah.
obviously, like you said, he lost temper again there in the Arizona game, and he just gets beat so much. He gets beat pretty much at least once or twice on every drive. Every drive I've seen him pretty much get beat at least once or twice. Whether that might be him getting beat, whether that might him getting called for pass interference, whether that might be him getting called for holding, whatever it is, I feel like Josh Norman name gets called by the referees at least once or twice per drive. And I'm like, with Lenore, I feel like Lenore, he's been solid in the beginning of the season. I feel like he was solid. Now he did have his ups and downs, obviously, like any rookie cornerback would. But I feel like he was doing pretty good, especially for considering that he is a rookie. I feel like he was doing pretty solid. So I feel like with Norman, with his kind of his inconsistency, I feel like why not give Lenore a chance? Because I feel like I said, like I pretty much every play I feel like Norman gets called for something or he gets beat, and it gets on my nerves because I'm like, you have a guy like in Lenore who's sitting on the bench who was pretty solid for the first couple of games, and when Norman with him and his inconsistency, I feel like why not play Lenore and why not give him a chance? Because I feel like he was pretty solid, and he's only going to get better by getting that game rep and getting experience. With quarterback, it's a little bit different because quarterback, you can learn and sit on the bench by learning from a veteran quarterback. But with cornerback, necessarily, the Niners, the only veteran cornerback that we had was Verrett, and he's out for the season. I don't know pretty much any other veteran cornerback. And Norman, but I don't know what Lenore necessarily. I wouldn't want Lenore learning from Josh Norman. So I feel like we should give Lenore a chance, especially with Josh Norman and his inconsistencies. I feel like we should give Lenore a chance.
I think what you said was astute, but I think what you said also was a little bit off base. And the reason I'm saying is that you don't want Lenore learning from Norman. Norman has great hands on the line, and I'm no DB expert. I'm just listening to other podcasts and about his, but he's got good hands on the line. He's very physical, and Diamador Lenore got beat deep. Right? Norman got beat deep a lot. So they don't have the straight line speed. They can't keep up with wide receivers in a vertical standpoint. So they have to play better at the line of scrimmage. Lenore has done that. He's consistently done that in his limited amount on the team. I just think it's the same thing of the quarterback or any other offensive player or defensive player, right? So our team's in playoff contention. They want to play the veteran guy because the veteran guy isn't the veteran or rookie isn't that much better than themselves, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo. Like they offer different variables, but Trey Lance isn't without mistakes. So they're trying to win all the time, right? So, and I don't blame them because the fact that Shanahan's only had one winning season. So I don't blame them for that. I think it's the same thing with the DBs is that you want to go with the veteran guy. You want to make sure that you have the at least experience over talent.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely brings the experience, which obviously that is a great thing. But I mean, like you said, yeah, he's definitely more physical. But like sometimes being more physical does sometimes get you in trouble, and we've seen it with Norman before. Like I said, like the holding calls, like the pass interferences. So
then I went on a diatribe, a long talk about why I would back up Norman. Not necessarily I like Norman, but over Lenore. Let's go for you the other way. What's your talking points for Lenore, and why do you think he's better than Norman, or why would you go forward with Lenore over Norman?
I mean, my biggest thing with Lenore is that, especially in the beginning of the season, I didn't see. Obviously, Lenore did sometimes get beat over top and get beat deep, but we've seen also Josh Norman get beat deep, and we've also seen him get beat on just regular plays. And with Lenore, I haven't necessarily seen him get beat on regular plays. Obviously he has been beat sometimes, but I haven't seen him get beat as much as Norman has. And also with Norman, with Lenore, I feel like you don't get those pass interference calls. You don't get those holdings. Now, probably Lenore probably has done that at least once or twice, but with Norman, I feel like I said before, every couple of drives, I've seen Josh Norman get called for whatever it might be, whether that might be a holding penalty, whether that might be a pass interference call, whatever it might be, or just getting beat. Norman sometimes just gets beat and he just gets pass interference or whatever that may be. With Lenore, I feel like what I've seen from him this season, I feel like he's been pretty solid. And just in my opinion, I feel like he's just done better than Norman has this season in certain situations. Now Lenore, he does get beat. He does get beat deep, but with Lenore, I just don't see him. I just haven't seen him this season, or at least me. I just haven't seen him get deep on just normal routes and regular plays that much. And he's also, I feel like, a better tackler than Norman.
So basically, it comes down to you would rather have a better athlete, a better corner, versus a turnover specialist who gets beat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
okay,
that's just me.
Yeah.
Well, moving on to I think the last topic of the day. The Rams are 7-4. I thought the Rams were gonna win in Green Bay, but I'm happy they lost because now they're 7-4.
Yeah.
And the Niners won against the Vikings today, and the Niners are sitting at 6-5. Now looking at the remainder of the Niners schedule, I think the Niners are playing Seattle next week, and they're playing Cincy, and then I think they're playing the Falcons, Tennessee, and I think they're playing Houston. So it's pretty much a little bit of some easy games and some pretty tough games like Cincinnati, like Seattle. Seattle obviously plays tough against us pretty much every time we play them. But with the Rams schedule, they're playing the Jaguars and then they're playing the Cardinals the week after that. So my question for you is, do you think the Niners can get second seed? And do you think they could be potential fifth seed in the wild card race?
I honestly don't think it matters. Right. So you're looking at if you're not first seed, you're playing away during the playoffs. You're playing against an overall better team, quote unquote, via the record. And it's something that is going to maybe benefit the Niners because we've been better at away than home. because our first home win was against the Rams on the season. But I think there's a lot of games in our schedule that are trap games or are underrated games that people think that we're automatically going to get based on previous assumptions of the team, right? The Bengals is a good example, right? Bengals have been a garbage team lately, but they just threw up a lot of points this week. And Mixon had 2 touchdowns. T. Higgins had over 100 yards. And if you were to say to a random fan, who's the number 1 wide receiver for the Bengals, it would be Chase, right? So they have a lot of weapons, and you can't discount Russell Wilson any week, any day of the week. So we have a lot of tough games coming up, and you think of them as bulk. So in my previous podcast, I was talking about November, like a bulk of games. So we have 4 games this month. We have to win 2 out of 2 or 3 out of 4. Where do those wins come from? And the Niners are going to have to do that. They're going to have to win more games than they lose in the upcoming months. Is it 4-1? Is it 3-2? Or however you want to divvy it out? I don't know, because every other team has to lose or win, but I don't think it matters because I don't think they're catching the Cardinals.
Yeah, I don't think they're catching the Cardinals now. Obviously, I don't think they're catching the Cardinals because the Cardinals are sitting at 9-2, and hopefully with Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins coming back after the bye week, I think they'll be fine. So obviously, they don't have a chance at winning the division. I don't think so. But do I think Do I think they can beat the Rams? Obviously, anything is possible. Now we obviously know that anything is possible. Anything can happen. So we'll find out in the upcoming weeks. But the Rams, I feel like the Rams when the Rams are playing at their best and when the Niners are playing at their best, the Rams are a much better team than the Niners. Now, obviously, when we go head to head, we've already seen what happened. But I would say the Rams obviously are a much better team, obviously, just roster wise than the Niners. But the Niners, they have a tough schedule. Like, you have to go play Tennessee. Tennessee obviously lost and got their butts up by the Patriots, but Tennessee's also a pretty darn good team. You had to go play the Bengals, like you said. The Bengals put up like 41 today. They're pretty much killing the Steelers. And they have I feel like they have 3 receivers that are pretty darn good in Chase, Tyler Boyd, and Teague. And so all 3 of those guys are solid receivers. So you have 3 really good receivers. And then obviously Joe Mixon, who's a top 10 running back. So the Bengals are going to be a tough game. In Seattle, like you said, you can never count on Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, especially against the Niners. And for some reason, Seattle always gives the Niners a tough fight. Especially in the Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch regime. They've always given the Niners a tough fight. Even if Seattle is not favored, they just have been giving the Niners a tough fight for the last couple of years. It's always a tough game. It's always a close game coming down to whatever might be the last possession, or if it goes to OT, just like at 2019. Yeah. It's just always a tight game. So it's going to be tough for the Niners. But just for me personally, either way, I would just be happy if the Niners make the playoffs because the Niners, obviously, we don't know. They don't 100%. They just don't have a first-round draft pick. So I'm not looking forward to what if the Niners can tank and they can get a first-round draft pick or nothing like that because we don't have a first-round draft pick. So I'm not necessarily looking forward to the
Well, we've only been in the playoffs 4 times since I've been alive, and I'm older than you are, quite a bit, obviously, based on my eyes and the amount of alcohol I've had. But I think the question should be this, right? So I agree with you. I don't think that we'll beat the Cardinals in the division. So, right. So we're going to be on the road. So as we already said earlier, I prepped you for this question. I went down the list of the teams winning their division and what teams do you think we can beat? And you only said Cowboys. So if you only think that we can beat the Cowboys on the road, then we have to get the 5th seed. So this is an important game.
Yeah.
Or an important part of the season. And I think that we can beat any team because any given Sunday, right? Mm-hmm. But I would trust Aaron Rodgers and the Packers over us. I would trust Tom Brady and the Bucs over us. The Cardinals have a better overall team than we do, but I wouldn't trust Kyler Murray in the spotlights because he's never been there. So how do you know he'll react to that pressure? Who knows? I don't know, but I think that regardless of whether we finish ahead or below the Rams, we're still going on the road. So we're still facing the division winner. Out of those teams, you said the Cowboys you'd be most comfortable facing.
I mean, in order, I would say from the teams that I feel like we would have the best possible chance to beat, first I would say the Cowboys. Now, obviously, because the Cowboys like I said, they've lost the last 3 of their 4. So the Cowboys, they've just been downward spiral. So the Cowboys, their stock is trending a little bit down. Then obviously second, I would choose theirs than the Cardinals because the Cardinals, we have beat the Cardinals before, but just the first 2 games, we've done better against Kyler. And like you said, Kyler's never been to the playoffs, so we don't know how he's going to react to that pressure. But then third, I would put up the Packers because I obviously have more faith in Aaron Rodgers and that team. And then the Bucks would be the last team that I want to play in the playoffs because we know what Brady does in the playoffs. It's just not fun to play Brady in the playoffs. Like even last year, the Saints beat Brady twice, and it wasn't even like close games. They completely blew out Brady twice. And in the come playoff time, Brady and the Bucks beat the Saints in the Superdome. So like Brady and the Bucks are the last team that I want to play. But either way, I would just be happy if the Niners make the playoffs because I'm not looking forward to anything in the offseason, especially the draft. Obviously, now we'll see what they do in the offseason. But just for me personally with the draft, I'm not really looking forward to the draft. I want to see what the Niners do, but we don't have any first-round draft picks or second-round draft picks. So it's not one of those things where like, oh, if the Niners don't make the playoffs, it's okay. Or if the Niners, it's not that important. The Niners get a higher seed because then the Niners can tank and they can get a better first-round or second-round draft picks. The Niners don't have that anymore because they traded their picks away. So at the end of the day, I just want the Niners to make the playoffs, but I would rather have them play it, like I said, like the Cowboys or the Cardinals, and I would rather have them play like the Packers or the Bucks.
All right. Well, let's do predictions. Let's do so the Niners play at Seahawks, at Bengals, at home against the Falcons, and then at Titans on a short week. So in December, out of those 4 games, what do you think the record's going to be in those 4 games?
Okay, I think they're going to beat Seattle because Seattle, obviously, they've not been the same Seattle that we've seen Russell Wilson with his finger injury. So that's one win.
They're going to go into Seattle and win that game. Okay, so then the Bengals at Cincinnati.
I know this might not be a popular opinion, but just the way the Niners have been playing the last couple of weeks, if the Niners continue to do what they have been doing, I think it'll be a tough game, but I think the Niners can pull it out in Cincinnati. I think they can. But the Cincinnati game is one of those games where I feel like it can go either way. I said it about the Vikings game also, is that the Niners could win it or the Vikings can win it coming into the game. Because it just, both teams are equivalently good. Both teams have star players, so it could go 50-50. It could go either way. Same thing I feel like about the Bengals game is that it could go either way. The Bengals could win it, and then either the Niners could win it because both teams are good. It just depends on who plays the best football on that particular Sunday. So, but I feel like.
So you're saying toss up, but Niners get the toss up. Okay, so
I think the Niners
2-0 in December. Now Falcons at home. Where do you think that game goes?
Falcons, I think we can beat the Falcons. The Falcons, now obviously they did win today, but majority of the Falcons' wins has been against teams like the Jaguars, has been against not the best teams. And I mean, if the pass rush can get to Matt Ryan, I feel like I think we can do pretty good against the Falcons. I'm not necessarily worried about the Falcons, but the only guy
to play devil's advocate, the Niners only have 1 win against a team over 500. So
that is a good point, but the Falcons are like 5-6, so.
Yeah, only 1 game behind us.
Yep.
So and then we go to the last game on a short week, going across country to the Titans. How do you think that game ends out? Maybe Derrick Henry comes back at that time. He's saying that he might be available late December, early January. How do you think that game shapes up?
If Derrick Henry comes back, I think we lose because Derrick Henry, we know what Derrick Henry does. He's just a dominant running back. I think we lose if Derrick Henry comes back. But either way, like I said, I think that's also another 50-50 game because both teams are good, even without Derrick Henry. Both two of the running backs that they had, Deontay Foreman, whoever number 40 that they had, I forgot his name. I think it's something Hillard. Both of those guys had 100 rushing yards against New England, who has probably the best defense right now in football.
Yes,
so
they do.
Both of those guys, both of the running backs had almost over 100 rushing yards. So their running game pretty much, obviously we know what Derrick Henry brings, but their running game necessarily hasn't had that big of a loss without Derrick Henry. The run game has still been pretty solid. But I feel like that game was also a toss-up. But I'm going to lean towards the Titans a little bit because it is a short week, and we're playing in Tennessee. So I think it is a little bit of it could go either way, but I'm leaning towards Tennessee a little bit because of the short week and because it's not at home. But the Niners do play better away. So
I think you're on the path there. I think we'll probably go 50-50 in this month, right? So we're a game Like we're game over 500 now. I think we're going to be a game over 500 going into January, where we have 2 games left, and those are going to be the die-hard games. So I think we lose 2, we win 2. Whether those games are Seattle or a loss to the Falcons because Matt Ryan puts it on his shoulders or whatever, I'm not 100% sure. But all those games are win and lose games that I could see them winning any of those. So I'm gonna play the safe bet and go 50-50 on all those. But I think that's more than likely based on the season, right? Jimmy's been playing fantastic up until this game. For the last 4 games, he was garbage in the beginning of the season. So do we get no turnover Jimmy? Do we get good run game?
Yeah.
Will those injuries affect us? I think 50-50 is probably a safe bet, which would put us in the last 2 games of the season to make sure that we win, which I'm not going to predict those games because who knows what our teams will be like, but that'll be the Texans and the Rams, which seems like 1-1 based on now, but who knows?
Yep. I will say about the Rams game, the Rams game could also be 50-50. I know we've beaten the Rams before.
Yeah.
But the Rams, if the Rams put the starters on the bench, and if they pretty much have won games and we've dropped some of the games, like if we're sitting if we have 6 losses or 7 losses and the Rams haven't lost a game and they're still sitting at 7, whatever it might be, 10 wins and 4 losses, whatever it might be, then if they bench their starters, I think the Niners get the W. But if the Rams play their starters, Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, I think it's a 50-50 game. But I will say the Texans, I get the Texans have won and have had some upsets, but they lost to their Jets today. And I think that a Texans team is a game that we're going to win.
We
should win, right? We should win. 3 games that I felt like we should win and that we're favored to win were Detroit, Jacksonville, and the Texans, just looking at the schedule before the season. Those are the 3 games that I felt like, we should get the W against those 3 teams because the Niners are a much better team roster-wise, and I feel like they're a much better team than those 3 teams.
All right, let's go for what do you think? Player of the game for each of us, and then let's call it a night.
All right. Yep. Player of the game.
Go ahead. Go for you.
All right. So player of the game. Are we gonna do offense and defense or just
whatever player? You want? It's your podcast. It's your it's your broadcast.
Let's just do one player of the game. My one player of the game is Debo Samuel. Now I think you're gonna say that one also, but my one player of the game is Debo Samuel. Now obviously Debo Samuel didn't have those receptions, but Debo Samuel was so lethal in the run game. He's had almost over 70 something yards, had 2 touchdowns or a touchdown. He was so good in the backfield, and I feel like Debo Samuel was a huge part for us to win this football game. He was a huge part of us winning this football game. And I heard the coaches joking around that Debo Samuel was like, Kyle, you're going to turn me into a running back. And Kyle Shannon's like, I already did turn you into a running back. And the Niners have been using him in the backfield, which you don't see that many receivers being used in the backfield. You don't see DK Metcalf.
Yeah, he's the best offensive weapon. He's the best weapon in football. Yeah.
I think if Debo Samuel continues to play the way he's playing, he could be a legitimate candidate for Offensive Player of the Year. Just the way he's been playing and just the way he's been used, I think he could be a legitimate candidate for Offensive Player of the Year. So Debo Samuel's definitely my player of the game. He was a huge part of this win today, and I think Debo Samuel's my player of the game.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Elijah Mitchell, and the reason being is that I know he got a guinea touchdown based on the defense with that 2-yard run for the touchdown there, but most of the last 2 games, his yards per carry hasn't been great. He hasn't really broken off any runs, and he had a 15-yard run today. He 27 carries with a broken finger and broken ribs. He showed toughness. He got hit on quite a few plays, and was a carrying part of the team. So I want to go with Elijah Mitchell for player of the game.
Yeah, but Elijah Mitchell is definitely good. An honorable mention. I want to give an honorable mention to Brandon Ayuk because Ayuk has been getting involved in the offense for the last couple of weeks. I don't know what changed, but Ayuk has definitely been getting more involved. Had 3 catches, I think 90-something yards. So Ayuk was definitely going to go an honorable mention. And Debo, I liked up the stats, had 66 rushing yards, 6 carries, and 2 touchdowns. So Debo is just a straight up beast.
You just look at for Ayuk though. You look at the fact that he sat in the soft parts of coverage, right? So all of his receptions were in the soft parts of coverage. So he's reading the defenses. He's doing a good job at sitting down and getting the receptions. Jimmy hits him. He's doing a great job lately.
Yeah, RJ69 says, but it was designed for Hurd, a college running back playing wide receiver. Yes, Hurd was a call. Too bad he got hurt, and Debo picks up his place. Yep, with Hurd.
But my thing for Debo is yardage, right? So everybody was talking about Hurd, what it's designed for, but Hurd never got on the field.
Yep.
Right. So he's never been on the field, which is a part of being an athlete, is being available. And he never even sniffed the realm that Debo could ever be, or he never sniffed the realm that he could ever be even close to Debo. So I think that's what you think in your mind. And I think so too, because he's that versatile athlete, but he was never even close to being on the field or being part of this offense.
That Hurd situation still bugs me to this day. Because you look at how many great receivers were in that second and third round was A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, and Debo Samuel. You could have gotten a guy like Debo, and you could have also gotten a guy like Terry McLaurin, like A.J. Brown. You could have gotten another stud, but instead you got a guy like Hurd who's not even on the team anymore, who was such an injury-prone player. And like you said, he just wasn't staying in the field. And I always say the best ability is availability. Jalen Hurd was just never available. So
it's not just him. It's Javian Kinlaw, right? It's what we talked about with injuries for most players is he was not on the field. He's not on the field for a lot of those points.
My point is saying that they're equivalent, just pointing out that it was a part of the plan 3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that. You could say what they drafted him for as a weapon. So, yeah, you're exactly right. I said that Debo's a weapon, and they drafted him to be a weapon because of what he played in college. So, yeah, you're correct in what they drafted him to be. But I don't think that Hurd has the burst. I don't think that Hurd has the receiving ability. I think that he was more of a wide receiver, tight end mix. So maybe I was wrong, and his injuries would have proved your point, but I think that Debo's a way better player overall.
Yeah, well, we never
before the NFL. Even before the NFL.
Yeah, well, guess we'll never know because Hurd is no longer on the team anymore. So
yes,
we'll never know. But that basically wraps up the show. I appreciate everybody for tuning in and watching. If you haven't already, go check out Rando's podcast and go follow him on Twitter at Rando Commando 24. It's on the screen. It's on his username. Go follow him. Go hit him a follow up on Twitter. Go check out his podcast, 2 podcasts that he does, Genuine Draft Podcast. The link is in the description, and Hockey Royalty, where he talks about LA Kings hockey. So go check all that good stuff out. The link is in the description. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please go do so. Subscribe to the channel.
You're making a mistake. Yeah.
What?
No, they're making a mistake if they're not subscribed to your channel by now.
So,
because I'm in the dream is a fucking G, man.
Appreciate it. But yeah, if you go subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, hit the like button. I appreciate you joining me, Rando. And the Niners got a W. We're 6th seed, and we'll see you guys next time. Go Niners.